All right, district breakdown time, and we are in 9-5A Division Two, our last Houston area Division Two district, and it's a doozy. There's three teams in here that always bring the crazy athletes, and we have a team going for a repeat in Richmond Randall, who is stocked. I think Landon Williams Cowles has about 6 more years. I believe he was only a sixth grader last year. You'll have to brush up on that. I can't really remember. The man is young and talented and does things. But I want to start. I mean, we'll talk about them, but I also want to talk about Iowa Colony. Can they knock Richmond Randall off in the regular season? And how far do you think they can go in the playoffs?
Right now, if you're asking me today, we're in April, so we still got a lot of time before the season. But if you're asking me today, I think Iowa Colony and Randall are again the two best teams in 5A Division II Region 3, and I think we could see an all 9 5A Division II regional final, much like we saw last year when Randall knocked off Iowa Colony in a great overtime matchup. So I think these two teams are loaded. State championship contenders once again. Obviously, Randall winning the state championship last year, you have to give them the champion's advantage, having beaten Iowa Colony twice last year. But this Iowa Colony team is fun to watch. Wide receiver Jaden Warren. I love their quarterback Carson White. He's just an operator of that offense, and so Iowa Colony's got the personnel to not only hang with but beat Randall. And Randall's got some questions. They do have Landon Williams Callis back. They're going to get Pac-Man Dominguez at the linebacker back, who was ineligible last year. So that's going to help. But they do lose Chase Sims. They lose a lot of guys in the secondary. So Randall's got some holes to fill. Tyler Scribonic is going to take over at quarterback full-time. He kind of split time last year with Keelan Sweeney. And I think the biggest thing for Randall is what are they going to look like on offense? Both of their offensive coordinators have left and gotten head coaching jobs. Brooks Hack goes to Houston Memorial. Stephen Hill goes over to Fulsher to be the head coach. So you're going to have a whole new offensive system to go with. So it's going to be interesting to see how Randall adjusts and fits Tyler Scribonic's skill set at quarterback while still getting Landon Williams Callis the ball, because in the end, you want to get the ball to your guy. That's, in my opinion, the number one running back in the country in the class of 2027, and so you want him to have the football as much as you can.
And we talked about this when we were sitting there in Baylor watching them win their state semifinal game. It seems like as the year went on, or at least as the playoffs went on, Landon got less and less carries. We were speculating that he may be a little bit worn down, but we don't know. Maybe we don't know what was really going on, or maybe you do. Is that a deal where they really want to get something out of Scribonic so that we don't wear and tear this? I mean, we now know what it feels like to play 16 games.
Sure,
what you got to do body-wise. Is that kind of the deal? I know their offensive line was a little skeleton-ish.
Yeah, and I think they'll be better on the offensive line. That I don't think it was a wear and tear thing for Callis. I don't think he was 100%. I think he had a couple of nagging injuries that were slowing him down late in the year. Because if you look at Landon Williams Callis' carries during the regular season, he didn't get a ton of carries because they were in a lot of blowouts. Yeah. So I don't think it was a wear and tear thing. I think he just got nicked up and just was playing through an injury that if it had happened in the regular season, he probably would have sat out a couple of games to get healthy. But if that injury happens in the first or second round of the playoffs, you got to try to play through it, because that gauntlet that Randall ran, especially round 3, round 4, having to play Brenham, who we're not going to talk about Brenham in these two previews, but in the Region 3 pantheon of things, Brenham is going to be really, really good as well. You play Brenham and then Iowa Colony back to back. You got to have all your horses there. And so I think it was more a matter of Williams Callis being a little nicked up and playing through a minor injury versus being run down. I think he's obviously not a bigger back. He's a smaller running back. But I do think Coach Randall, they did a good job in limiting his carries, especially in those blowout games. There's no reason for him to get that wear and tear when they're up 50, 60 points on everybody.
Yeah, especially when you're feeling you're going to get 15, 16 games in there. Let's talk a little bit about Marshall. They always have the athletes. They haven't been as successful in the postseason the last couple, 2-3 years. There's athletes again. I mean, you got Caden Johnson back at quarterback. You got Isaiah Williams at safety. Talk about, can they get this thing together and make a push? I mean, they got it in a tough district here.
Yeah, I mean, they got to the third round of the playoffs last year, 10-3. They lost to Iowa Colony in the third round of the playoffs. Competitive game. James Williams does a great job. I think he's up for THSCA president, so well respected amongst his peers. I think Marshall's going to be right there in the mix. I think they're a notch below Iowa, Colony, and Randall, but not far. Caden Johnson has the frame and has really impressed on the summer camp circuit. Has really done a good job. Fort Bend Marshall's going to be loaded with speed. They're always a contender to make noise. The state track meet. They've got a 3-year starter back at running back, Peyton Long. They've got a 4-star defensive back in the Williams kid, Isaiah Williams. So they've got talent. I think the biggest thing for Fort Bend Marshall is going to be the trenches. The defensive line and the offensive lines are going to be very young, and that's going to be where things are really going to get determined for them. They're going to be good enough in skill positions to play with anybody. It's going to be up front how they mature, how those young guys grow up. And they're going to have to grow up because that district, having to play Iowa Colony, having to play Randall, could mean Fort Bend Marshall again has to take that third place route, which means you're going to have to play, one of those two teams in the third round of the playoffs. So it's just a gauntlet in 5A Division II, Region 3, and it centers in the Houston area, which I know for Houston area football fans is a lot of fun that you've got a 5A Division II region that is very Houston heavy with elite football teams.
Well, we talked about the top 3. There's got to be a 4th playoff team. The last couple of years, it's been the Stingarees over there at Texas City. But do you see anybody else jumping up in this joint?
Yeah, I think it's still Texas City, but they've got question marks. If you're looking for like a team to really dream on that could make a push into that, it might be Rosenberg Terry with under head coach Darnell Jackson. They were 2-8 last year, but they got 14 starters back, 30 total lettermen. So they've got the numbers and the players coming back to maybe make a push into that number 4 spot. It's going to be tough, though. Texas City is a tradition-rich program, so I would give the edge to the Stingarees, but I do think Rosenberg Terry has the personnel to maybe get in there and push.
All right, well, it's going to be exciting. I know there's Iowa Colony, Randall, Marshall, Iowa Colony games are all circled on our calendar. Throw some cameras out there for that.
Yeah, we might, those games. You might get one of those on a Thursday. Which I think last year we had.
Thursday games.
I think Randall and Fort Bend Marshall played on a Thursday last year. So
one of them did for sure.
I
love those Thursday games, man. Well, I get to really dissect the highlights.
Lamar Consolidated ISD with 5 high schools sharing one stadium. You're going to get Thursday games every week over there at Gus Trailer. So. Of course, you could get the Saturday games, and I know we don't. You don't prefer. Yeah, I love Saturday games.
So. I know you do because you can get to them.
That's right.
Dang it, you're so selfish, Step. You've been this way since we were kids.
Hey, it's all about me.
You just love the football. I got you. We're gonna dip up into Division 1. See if we can get a team to contend. See how far we can get a team in the Houston area to get to go into playoffs in Division 1. Maybe you have some spoilers for us, but I'm not going to let you do that. We're going to have to wait till next week.
Yeah, I got to wait till next week for Division 1.
All right. We'll do it next week. Step, thanks again for joining me, man.